And France, in the framework of the regular meetings for this group to discuss the current situation for the Palestinian cause and the methods of the revival of the peace methods, and how to have with this group to get this cause on the priority of our international agenda. And despite all of the changes and the challenges that we witnessed throughout the past few years, Egypt still believes deeply that there is no way to reach to stability and security unless we do have a sustainable, peaceful solution in regards to the legislative solution. And we have got the common understanding that Egypt is involved in all of the concerned events related to the Palestinian cause, which maintain the moral, ethical and commitment towards the cause and our brothers in Palestine. And also this great conference that take into consideration how to get the common ground between Palestinian and Israeli by launching one of those firm operations that get each part to get their needs, and how to make sure that they can build the trust between each one of them, and that Egypt has exerted all of the efforts to guarantee achieving this objective. And as you notice, that I was on ongoing communications with my counterpart, with Mr. Riyad al-Malki, and also with the Israeli Foreign Minister Al-Gabi al-Shirazi, to discuss the related issues related to the current meeting and how to reach to peace. So the Egyptian stance for the settlement steps still firm and not changeable, how to get the two-state solution and how to establish the independent Palestinian country in the framework of the 4th of June 1947, and how to get this stable and firm Egyptian stance throughout the whole years. And we usually believe that reaching this objective has to be implemented without any shaking for the stability of Israel and also for any other countries surrounding or nearby Israel, which is the one and for all the guarantee of reaching this objective. And I would like also in this framework, I want to address that Egypt usually welcomes any of the efforts that work for this exact objective, and that's why we do understand how the accountability and the responsibility that we have on our four-way team to get such negotiations and this great pivotal role that we understand that U.S. tries to exert to find a solution for this cause. That's why Egypt usually pursues to get the collaboration with the U.S. and all of the international counterparts and partners and all of the international and regional conferences in order to reach to the solution that we have got very prolonged suffering cause. And we work to have all of the recommendations and conceptions on the one condition to be related to the international legislations. And also this is the ALWA agency that plays to support all of the standard and assets support to all of the colonized territories of the Palestinian country. And also we do appreciate all of the exerted efforts that they do to provide all of the services despite all of the challenges that they face. And I also would like to address to pay tribute to the international community to the importance of providing the compatible services to the agency to help to reach and to perform its role, especially within the framework of the current coronavirus challenges. Also, I'd like to pay tribute to all of my counterparts in Jordan, France, and Germany for how they were very responsive to join this meeting and to join this group and to have this participation and collaboration, that we have corresponding perspectives between those countries in the framework of reviving the peaceful operation in order to regain the stability and security, and how to guarantee that the Palestinian people can get their due rights, and how to continue working in collaboration firmly and affirmably in order to reach these objectives. Also, throughout our meeting, we have agreed on the mutual statement that we already have distributed previously, in addition to the fact that we also have put clearly some of the related notions and conceptions about the collaboration that we will exert and the steps that we will take forward towards reaching the solution of the two states of Palestinian and Israel, in order to encourage them how they can make it apparent to have their own sovereignty in order to reach to the inclusive and comprehensive solution related to the international legislation. Thank you so much. And now the speech is for my counterpart, the Foreign Minister, Deputy of Jordan. So the speech is here. Thank you so much, my dear brother, and let me pay tribute to our brothers in Egypt and also to Your Excellency, Mr. Sameh Shoukry. Thank you so much for this great event and for the great efforts you exerted along with your team and the ministry to organize this meeting, which is conducted in a very critical time according to the status of the coronavirus. But still, this proved that we are all committed of reaching a solution for the Palestinian cause, because we believe that it should be the first priority in all of the international regional priorities that needs to be solved in order to make sure that we can have the comprehensive peaceful solution that we all aim to. And also like to thank His Excellency the Foreign Minister of France and also the Foreign Minister of Germany also for their great commitment that they made it to the meeting, which confirms that both countries also want to provide all what is possible to make sure that this battle on the region, which was very prolonged, should be halted. So we understand that we have very critical time that we are behind reaching peaceful solutions. Now we have with the Israeli the Israeli country, we have around 800 new colonized lands, which is again it's a violation for the international legislations, which again take us backward for reaching the solution of the peace settlement that also can help us to have this strategic and peaceful and secured solution in the region. So we need to be very rapidly taking steps, and we to state that such procedures would never help to create the environment that can push the negotiations one more time, that can help to have the two-state solutions. And again, for our perspective in Jordan, the two-state solutions, which represents that we have the Palestinian country to be independent and to have its eastern capital of Jerusalem, according to the framework of the Arab Peace Initiative, is the one only method to reach to a peaceful solution. And that's how we continue working with our stakeholders and partners, and how to find the suitable environments and circumstances in order to be able to revive negotiations that can take us to a peaceful solution. And until we reach to this moment, we have to work all together to make sure that we halt any procedures that may hinder back all of the methods of reaching peaceful solutions. And we should have very clear stances in order to the expansion and the colonization and the service on the territories and all of the holy places like churches and mosques. So we do have a great responsibility and liability on from the Jordanian recommendations, and that's why we're here today, to make it clear that we want peace, and we're still working to reach peace. And we do believe that the solution for the Palestinian cause is just under one condition, is to have sustainable and comprehensive solution based on peace and security. And we will still do work on this, because otherwise we would have lots of tensions and lots of crises in this region that have got a very prolonged tensions for quite long years. So we do have no other solution but to have the two-state solutions. Otherwise we'll just have the unilateral state. So in that case we would have a global question, which is we will have the just one democratic country country that can legislate all of the rights for the Palestinian people. That's why we do understand how it is very important to combat all of these challenges, and Europe has got a very great pivotal role in all of the efforts to reach the peaceful settlement that we work for. And as my brother Sameh just mentioned, that the role of the US is a very leading role in all of the efforts that we exert, and we do look forward to work together on the ongoing project of reaching to the peaceful negotiations for reaching the comprehensive solutions. Thank you so much, my dear Sameh, that you've got this great organization for the meeting. Also great, want to pay great tribute to all of the organizers, as well as to the foreign ministers of France and Germany, and also great tribute to Egypt that usually play great role for the great support that they provide to the agency for the securing of the Palestinian people that have got lots of challenges due to the fact that they were not having compatible financial supports. Otherwise, they would have got lots of crises to the Palestinian people that wouldn't have got much available assets and financial assets to have the education and also the medical care. And so thank you so much, and we do look forward to having ongoing cooperation. Thank you so much, my brother Ayman. And just before giving the speech to the French Foreign Minister, I want to confirm that His Excellency President Fattah al-Sisi was so keen to meet this group, emerging from the fact that His Excellency usually is concerned to push the peaceful process forward for the great priority that Egypt gives towards the Palestinian cause, and also for any related Arab causes, and also for the aim of reaching a sustainable and comprehensive solution for the Palestinian cause, and can open the door for all of the people of the region to have a great impacts of such peaceful solutions on their life standards and work impacts as well, and how to get welfare in their, among their people. Thank you so much.
ميكروفون الوزير من فضلكم. ميكروفون.
Please microphone to the Minister. Thank you so much, Sameh. Thank you so much for receiving us here in Cairo. Such a meeting, which is considered to be the third meeting, as we have met before in Munich, and then we've met in Amman, and the common one should be in Paris. This meeting continuity is a great spark of our commitment that we still want to take the lead in this initiative of putting an end to this long-standing crisis. So after this strategic step that we found we have between Jordan, Maghreb, Bahrain is very positive step, and it's a very contributing procedure that can help in reaching the safe and secured goal that we try to reach. And as we mentioned previously, that the four of those countries, we want to make sure that we usually have just a very just and peaceful solution, which is related to the international legislations. And again, we still believe that we have just one objective, which is the two-state solutions, and the framework is the framework of the international community, and we should do this throughout the multi-part negotiations, and we shouldn't have any other solutions but those that respect and give the priority to the people of those countries. And that's how we give priority of the available steps and procedures to revive the negotiation between both sides when time has come to this. And that's how we need to make sure sure that we still also work on reaching these negotiation and discussions with all of our stakeholders, and absolutely with the US, which plays a great role in this great cause.
في الأسابيع
And in the past few weeks, there were some indications from Israeli and also Palestinian people, and I just want to salute the great decision by the Palestinian leadership to revive the secured and tax and also civil coordination along with Israel in accordance with the respect of Israel that should be paid to the pre-signed agreements, in order to make sure that we can get these steps pushed forward. We want to mention that both Palestinian and Israeli people should be committed to very regular steps, and also, as we mentioned in our previous meeting in Amman and also this morning, we've been reviewing those commitments and those very small steps that are very liable to revive the negotiations one more time, and just we want to open discussion with both sides to make sure that we can get a very dynamic, positive strategy by which we can reach to the discussion between multi-parties rather than unilateral direction, because the situation that we have in the region cannot wait longer than this. Thank you so much for paying attention to my speech, and thanks for Sameh Shukri for this great organization of this meeting that we are so glad and honored to attend with High Commissioner Ayman Safadi, such a dynamic, mutual and joint procedure that again shed the light on our great ongoing belief and perspective as we have already reviewed previously. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Genevieve. And now with the German Foreign Minister, Heiko Maas. Thanks to you, my great brother, Sameh Shukri, and for the great invitation that we got to attend this meeting. And despite the fact of the crisis that we have in all of our countries of the corona pandemic, but again, to have such a discussion, my dear Ayman, since our first meeting in this four-way meeting group in the framework of the political solutions, this has put us into discussing other causes and ideas, because the naturalizing cause that's being done between UAE, Bahrain and Israel and also Sudan, this has maybe caused the resuming back of the discussions for the Palestinian people regarding the security collaboration along with Israel, and this can help a bit. And also we have focused on this, on the procedures that can help in building trust and confidence by which we can create the available environment for both sides, and to discuss with both countries. And as we mentioned, that we will discuss with our partners in EU and US, and also will discuss with the future government of the US how can we revive the platforms of the peaceful discussions, and how we can also involve those countries in such discussions that actually can play a different role, especially after the naturalizing process. And we all agree that we do want to contribute in reaching the peace and stability in the Middle East region, and we do understand that such conflict will impact on other related conflicts in the region. That's why we do need to tackle these conflicts in the region to reach to a sustainable solution for all of those kind of conflicts. So we do this as one of those united governments, as we do believe that the best solution to reach to the conflict solution is by having a peaceful two-state solutions, and the best promoter to make sure that we have security in Israel is also with providing one of the best opportunities for the Palestinian people to identify their destiny, and how we can also maintain this possibility in order to be able to revive the negotiations one more time. And I want to mention that Germany will still believe that also Israel cause, and still we do believe also on the rights of the Palestinian people. That's why we do understand that our volunteering contribution in UNRWA budget with around 13 million euros. So I wish that this meeting that we have today, and also the one that's scheduled to be later, will give other open opportunities to push the peaceful process forward in the Middle East. Questions? Good evening. I'm Al-Sabri, reporter from Nile Sector, Egyptian television. My question to the Egyptian Foreign Minister and Your Excellencies, we want to tell us about this meeting procedure exactly towards the steps that you have discussed, how to revive the peaceful process, and also to have other details about the future steps, whether there are correspondences or communications along with both countries, Israel and Palestine. Also, what about the achievements that you got in regards to the efforts to have the Palestinian reconciliation, and what are the impacts that we may gain to move the peaceful process? Thank you. Thank you so much. As I just mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, that we again affirm that we do have a corresponding perspective for those four countries, that we do work on achieving peace, and again that also for the countries, those countries, France and Germany, for their mutual and their great participation throughout the joint statement that we released about the methods of pushing the settlement procedures and the negotiations between both sides forward. Also, the evaluation for all of the incidents that happened since our last meeting in Jordan, and how to be assessed, and also to put the common and the mutual perception about it, and how to put also the framework for the common period, how to prepare for the meeting that's scheduled to be conducted in France, and also the communications that being conducted between us, and also between the Israeli and Palestinian leaders, in order to have the preparation for this meeting, and in the framework of calling both parties to take the building confidence and avoiding the unilateral procedures that halting the peaceful process, and also the negotiation possibility whenever we have the time to its revival. And again, we want to assert that the commitment from this meeting, from this group meeting, is to be adhering to the international legislations and to adhere to the just and comprehensive solution. And as we just have heard throughout their speeches, for the for the prior objective, that any step that can help to contribute to reach to this objective that could be adjusted to the international community perspective in terms of the two-state solutions in the framework of the international legislations. And again, we confirm that Egypt will still work on reaching the Palestinian cause solution, and we've already reached lots of successful steps, and we do look forward to have more exerted efforts in the coming period to have lots of communications between all of the related stakeholders, to have the discussion and the negotiations for the for the common interest of reaching the achievement of the rights of the Palestinian people, and to have such a negotiable process whenever we have the resuming back of the peace process, and to have a continuing Palestinian leadership to express its hopes and desires for its people. If we have any other comments from Your Excellencies.
Bonjour messieurs, je souhaitais profiter de la présence de la France et de l'Allemagne aujourd'hui pour
Good morning.
à Monsieur Choukri.
I want to take this chance to have a question for the Foreign Minister Choukri for the collaboration between Egypt and between Europe, because the European Union has stated a statement about the human rights violations in Egypt, and based on this, will the Egyptian government will take any practical steps to get this amended? Thank you. Thank you so much. The collaboration between Egypt and France is very heritage and long historical, that works for the common interest, and we still work on such a relation that we give a great priority to. What Egypt is witnessing in terms of the economic reform, and to make sure that we provide the Egyptian needs to have a great economic pivotal step that we also have got like the German and French companies and investments who were so promoters to this economic reform step that we took, and also in the framework of the social and political framework. We usually have a transparent discussion framework. Actually, I haven't heard about the body that has been condemned in Egypt. Let me say that we usually appreciate all of the bodies that have condemnations if they are right, and if they are in the framework that being acceptable. We usually work for reaching the human rights which is applicable everywhere. And again, we want to make sure that we want to confirm that Egypt has been one of those countries that's been usually keen to provide and to save all of the rights of our people, and to keep and to preserve all of the rights of our people, because we do understand that such rights can help us to move forward towards the reaching the aspirations of our people. The Egyptian people, which is the one that can guarantee and can decide whether the state is doing any violations or not. But let me confirm that again, by, for example, the parliament elections and the Senate elections that we got recently, once we have any conduction for a session for the parliaments in the framework or in the field of the inspection and supervision, they all tell us how we do work for the approach of the political freedom and the this, which is again very adherent to the upgrading of the social standards and social life fields, which is again shows how we've been able to combat lots of challenges. And we should take into consideration all of those challenges that we have in terms of the educational, economic, and political challenges. But again, we do again believe that this code of conduct and ethics that we all in our countries work for. And I understand we usually work to be reaching more fruitful and prosperous life standard, and how to amend and to improve our status. And I understand that we should have an objective approach to that we can learn from, and not just to have such condemnation which is being built on wrong or false news that maybe could be used for some political objectives. And again, we do work objectively with our countries to reach to improvement all the time.
عبد الباسط الهادي,
Jordan TV. The meeting today has discussed or has affirmed on the Jordanian sovereignty on the holy bodies. Your Excellency, could you address what's been happening on the holy premises in Palestine, and again how we can revive discussions on this? Thank you. Excuse me. Well, at the beginning, let me say that the sovereignty on the guardianship on the Muslim and Islamic and the Christian holy worshiping premises, it's again a liability for the four-way countries. That's why Jerusalem, this holy capital, that has a special status for all of people, and also for the three different religions. That's how we do usually work on making sure that Jerusalem should be standing for peace, and hence we should work on preserving the identity of the three religions. And this is a daily effort that we do under the guidelines of by Malik Abdullah Al-Thani. This is in regards to the holy worshipping premises. And as my colleagues has confirmed for the UNRWA, we do believe in the actual role they play in serving the Palestinian refugees, and they have the finance of the UN financing. But again, they suffer, unfortunately, financially, because they have very critical situation in terms of their financing, and we need to work for filling those financial gaps. And as my French and as my German colleague has mentioned, that have today already paid the donation. And again, we work also along with SEWID in a participation to have a conference by the end of coming June on the international conference to gather lots of donations in order to be able to provide in their role until we reach to a just solution for the refugees, until we reach to the peaceful solution, and to put an end to this aggression that happened back in 1947. And we still have ongoing commitment along with my colleagues, which is again a part of the whole teamwork, which again confirms on our commitment and our belief of the collaboration along with Egypt, particularly as we mentioned, as my colleague has mentioned, that we both have signed peaceful agreement since years, which was again an indication for our commitment. And when we talk about what the peaceful process may face, we would talk about who really want to have very inclusive, peaceful meeting. And today we've been honored to be met with His Excellency the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who usually has ongoing communications with Malik Abdullah Thani, and who confirmed that again we do have this on our that's the first priority, and again along with our counterparts and EU, who has great role in this cause. Thank you. If we have any from the German media press reporters.
Daniel Brössler
من جريدة
Daniel Rötter from Zeitung Press. I do have a question for the German and French foreign ministers. What's your expectation towards the peaceful process in the Middle East by the new government of the US? And do you think that this government that already has their own internal tensions on the surface, do you think that they will be able to also tackle the peaceful process in the Middle East? And do you think that you in Europe could be able to fill this gap in this framework, and also take into consideration that we do already have new plans for the settlements and colonization? I do have another question to the Egyptian foreign minister. In Egypt, there is an ongoing condemnation, not just in Europe and the US, due to the fact that we do know that we have some arrests for some of the journalists, and there's violation for the human rights. And again, the new US elected the president, he cleared that he would take this issue into consideration to make sure that the human rights are preserved. Are you willing to have plans for improving this situation? Also, another question to answering this question on behalf of my French colleague. I believe that the notion of the Middle East issues, I think, will be a first priority on the agenda of the new US government, and I believe that there will be elections that may take us for some other weeks, and I believe also that in the meantime, undoubtedly, we do have some elections also in Israel and in Palestine in the same year. And I believe that having such elections for both conflict sides, so we may expect that on the second half of the year that we may have some consultations, and we also will take this as an opportunity to have some other steps in building confidence between both sides, and to have some other discussions with them regardless of the results of the elections, and also regardless of what's going on this region. But we want to exploit this situation and have a discussion with the US how they would take this into consideration, and how would they deal along with the Trump current steps. And again, as we mentioned, that we have new elections in Israel and Palestine, who are the two sides of the crisis. I just wouldn't add to what Heiko had just mentioned in regards to that situation, because we want to have very firm steps and relations with the US. So we would absolutely talk and discuss with the US that our group has usually been confirming on the importance of the negotiations to get out of the current conflict and crisis, just to continue on this. And on the answer for the question of the German journalist in regards to the new plans for the colonization, I want to again confirm what's being mentioned by France and Germany. We said that again, whoever would take step into this again would hold any steps for the Palestinian stability, and we usually call for the Israeli leaders to stop and to halt from taking any further steps in that regards, not just to have new buildings but in those colonized areas, but also the destruction of some of the buildings that are being financed by the international community. I think that I have already answered in regards to the human rights cause, but again, I wouldn't just refrain from directly confirming again that again we have, as you mentioned, that we have continuous condemnation. Maybe that's because we in Egypt we do not take this behavior of the condemnation of the other countries, because we do believe that the evaluation and the assessment of the human rights causes is again on the burden on the shoulders of the country itself. So all peoples and countries do have the right to evaluate by themselves to what extent they do have the rights, and by what extent does their countries help and protects and save their rights. I am able to condemn other countries, for example, like Germany and France, in terms of their violations for the human rights. But again, the Egyptian state and the Egyptian government has believed that we shouldn't do this evaluation for other countries, and this should be done by each country according to its own status and according to its own development process. I believe that the situation in Germany, for example, is currently totally different from it has 70 or 100 years ago. In terms of the political movement in regards to because of also the economic assets and the stability that Europe has already gained, and maybe in some other parts of the world that usually have got some targeting to their assets. And again, also want to confirm that we have Egyptian reporters and journalists here, but this has never been that we have condemned or arrested journalists or reporters unless they have got crimes by the review of the Egyptian law, and this being done by the independent Egyptian court. So all of the guarantees related to the addressing of the condemnation or otherwise for the providing all of the rights or for clarifying the false news or by having any statements. So again, we do believe in the human rights cause as well as others, but again we want to make sure that this evaluation is being done based on actual news and actual facts, by getting to the Egyptian people and asking them about their evaluation, and not by just checking whether some of those categories that do not represent the majority of the Egyptian people, and there is no reality that Egypt has got a violation for the human rights. And again, what's also been communicated about the fact that we do have some of the media platforms that played a role in putting in the actual framework that some news which is not real and it's not which is not representing what's going on the streets. So I just urge everyone to have maybe some walks in the Egyptian streets and to check how things are going. And again, I want to confirm that we will keep working on that, in that regards, because we work for the common good of our sons and grandsons. And again, we work on improving all of the principles and the standards. And we want maybe, and also hope that all of the countries will work on the same strategy, not to just be critical, and otherwise to work on improving and building capacities and improving, not just to do undocumented false news.